Nobody gets in or out.
Meeting will come to order. We will stand, turn off all your cell phones to start with, stand for a prayer and then a pledge of allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we gather here this evening and we're mindful of what's been going on in our country and in the world over the last few days and weeks. We just want to pray for those who protect us every day. We have police officers in this room right now, and we thank you for them. We thank you for their service to this community. We thank you for our armed forces personnel who are protecting us beyond this community. Lord, we pray that you would bless this community as we kind of start a new era with JT coming on board. We thank you for his willingness to accept the job and the hard work he's already put in 1 week. We thank you for all these people that have come out this evening because they care about this town. They care about the people of this town. And I just want to pray a blessing on all of them as well. As far as the board here, I pray that you might be with us as we make decisions and try to do things that are in the best interests of all involved. We thank you for this day, Lord. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item is approval of the minutes for 6/1/16 and 6/15/16. Can we do them both at the same time?
Actually, Omer did miss the June
Omer
1st.
missed the one, so we'll have to do them separate.
All right, have a motion for 6/1/16.
I'll make that motion.
Got a motion, do I have a second? Got a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries 3-0. Minutes for 6/15/16. Do I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
Do I have a second? Got a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries 4-0. Next item is approval of claims. Do I have a motion to approve the claims? Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries 4-0.
And then I also have the claim that gets dispersed directly from SRF to Strain and Associates for May's service for the water project, and the total is $22,488.68. Contract administration is for $6,930 of that, and then professional personnel $15,558.68.
I'll make a motion that we accept that claim.
Got a motion, do I have, got a second, do I have discussion? No discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries 4-0. Is that it, Diane?
Yes, thank you.
Old business, project updates, the lovable Trina Carter.
Thank you, sir. Trina Carter with Administrative Resources. Just to update you on some projects. Town Hall, the building committee, or building selection committee, met with the various firms that submitted statements of qualifications in an interview format, and the proposals were evaluated, and we also have received proposed costs. And I don't think we're ready to act on those tonight, but we have that in order to evaluate what the firm that was the highest ranking firm proposed. So we'll be meeting and getting that determined, and probably bring some type of contract next go around, next meeting in August. Storm drainage, I believe that's in Strands, Greenwood. And then we have the Main Street Downtown Revitalization Plan. That's the same situation. We have interviewed the three firms that submitted statements of qualifications, and we have also received a proposal. I believe we may want to do some negotiating on that proposal. So we'll be contacting the firm and seeing what we can work out with them as well. That would be a contingent contract based on, the application will be submitted to the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs for the downtown revitalization planning study.
And I did send them a copy so that they
Okay,
see
great,
the information that you sent.
And then, the other thing that I had brought to you before was the potential of a downtown facade renovation or rehab program. I know there's some downtown enhancement grant funding that you can potentially apply for through your Main Street program. And it's $1 for a $1.50 match. And that application is due August 26th. My plan is to go to the Main Street Committee to see if they're wanting to move forward with that and potentially ask for other funds to match that. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. The volunteer fire department application, as far as I know, we're still waiting to hear something back from FEMA. The COPS program, I just spoke with Marshall Talent, and it was submitted on June 22nd, but there were issues with the system, and so the program administrators asked that it be resubmitted, and that said that they submitted it today. So we should be good in that vein. Another program that I had mentioned was the NDOT grant program, and that was the community sidewalk program, or community program that they have out there now to match their bullet distributions. And I didn't know if you wanted that's an engineering type application. I didn't know if that was something you wanted potentially stream to work with, or.
Actually, JT's gonna.
Oh, well, there you go.
He's already week one.
He's on it, so, I mean, that's great, so, and I'll.
And Strand, they're both.
And Strand, okay. And I plan on meeting sometime with JT within the next week or so. We'll get that scheduled, and that's it.
Jeanette, on the,
Yes, sir.
the town hall,
Yes,
is there a meeting scheduled?
there's not a meeting
Not yet,
scheduled.
okay.
No. I just got back on.
But you're gonna meet with
We're
Main
gonna-
Street later this week on that one?
On the downtown revitalization, and I'll be meeting with Main Street when they have their regular Main
Okay.
Street meeting. And also the downtown enhancement grant. So, but yeah, we need to schedule the selection committee to meet, or else Clyde and I need to meet and contact the one firm that submitted a proposal for cost and see if we can negotiate that down.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions for me? Okay.
Before we move on, I'd like to point out the microphone up here. Our last meeting, which was a working session, and there were very few people here, but it was brought up that we have people out there, it's hard to hear some of the conversations up here. So this is an amplifier to what is it, Matt? Speakers. So hopefully everybody in the audience is able to hear, because we realize it's important, it's your right to hear, so we're doing the best we can, and hopefully this will take care of the situation. Okay, next, NDOT grant, JT and Ryan Marcus? Thank you.
All right, council members, this came about from House Bill 1001 that was passed. They handed it to NDOT and said, NDOT, we're going to give you $450 million to hand out to locals for roads or bridges, as the case may be. However, they said to NDOT that over the next, this is to be allotted over the next 3 years. So in 16, yet this year, it's $150 million. In 2017, it'll be $150 million. And in 2018, it'll be $150 million. The fortunate part of this House Bill 1001, which is titled the Community Crossing Matching Grant, is that $75 million of this 150 million that's allotted per year, both in 16, 17, 18, 75 million of that has to go to communities that are less than 50,000 in population. So that's something that can be extremely advantageous to the community. And as part of that, NDOT is doing an asset management plan. It's something that's required to submit application for this grant, which is where I will bring in Ryan Makis to discuss that plan, what that entails. And it's done on a 5-year basis. So when we would submit it for, potentially for this year, for 16, for 17, we would potentially do the same. Only at that point, we'd already have a draft of the asset management plan, so they could just update accordingly. So I'll turn it over to Ryan Makis, and be glad to answer any further questions. Thank you.
Yeah, so JT contacted us on Thursday to just kind of look into what it would take to put together an asset management plan for the town's roads. And basically, what goes into an asset management plan for on the transportation side for this grant is we just have to identify every road in town, the length of every road, and give every road in town a rate. And there's different rating systems out there on past asset management plans that we've done. We use this rating system developed by Pacer, which is developed by a university, and it's one of the ones that NDOT does mention actually as being an acceptable rating plan. So if you guys would decide you want us to proceed forward, we'd be looking to, over the next week, put together just an inventory of all your roads, the lengths of the roads, and then also come out, take a look to give a rating for each road. And then the second portion of the asset management plan is where it has to be decided what the thought is on, since it's a matching grant, how much wants to be spent, since whatever NDOT gives you, you have to equal it. And so in putting together the plan over the next 5 years, we basically have to put in there, this is your plan, this road this year, and this is the projected cost for that road. This road and the projected cost. So then one aspect of this is, would require input from Hope to figure out what type of commitment do you want to make as far as amount to spend towards this, without being that.
I just had a question that popped into my brain. I know, I thought a part of this is this not to your bullet funds that you receive that can be utilized as match. So I mean, that's something.
Right.
A lot of communities, that's what they would be doing, is utilizing the bullet funds that were returned, kind of returned for, as the match, because that's funds that you didn't have in your budget previously.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and it's really just whatever the town decides what roads you want to be on your 5-year plan to propose to NDOT. That's where we would need your input. Is okay, which roads? I think I'm not sure Dave and whoever thought about it, but that's where we can figure out the costs associated with each road, but we need to find out to what extent would you like to go for each one. I'm not, and that's where I don't know what the funds are exactly that would be available on a yearly basis. Just knowing that, okay, if it's 50,000, NDOT will give you another 50, and you have 100. It is something where thought needs to be put into how much would be planned on to be able to be contributed by Hope as well.
So, and that has to be decided on the first year or for all 5 years, or can that be updated each year and then the amount decided each year? Do you know?
I mean, that's where I'm not 100% sure on the way the grant works. If they give you money this year, you have to spend it all this year, and then or spend it all with projects for this year that's based on your what your 5-year program is for each individual year. And it's kind of come together quickly on. So, I mean, I'm not sure if you have any.
We have a couple of gentlemen, unfortunately, they're on vacation this week, that have been involved. We've done a couple of these, I believe, for the town of Edinburgh.
We've done Edinburgh,
And
Lawrence,
another one,
Burr,
so,
Glen.
you know, when they get back, they can get some more information as far as how this grant's supposed to work and stuff. But, you know, the first step is, you gotta do the asset management. You know, we already have maps of the town. Dave has information as far as lane miles and stuff, and it's a matter of sending out some personnel to take some pictures and evaluate, and then, you know, we can come up with hey, this road needs completely repaved, this one, you could probably mill and resurface, and then along with Dave and JT and your guys' input, you set a priority schedule as far as. And then Steve Rubel, who's the head of our municipal department, former city engineer, has a lot of experience with how to go about evaluating, how to go about setting priorities based on traffic counts, when's the last time it's worked on, what potential work might be there. You know, if there's an area that we might be looking to upgrade infrastructure, you may not necessarily want to, even though it's a bad street, you may not want it to be at the top of the list if you may tear it up again in 4 or 5 years. You know, that isn't, so that's some of the things we can do in our part of our asset. And Dave has a lot of good information that input will come into play there too.
We can get basically all the field work as far as determining ratings and everything for the existing roads right now. We can get that together this week. One of the two guys is in the office right now, so as far as starting to develop anything as it goes, and yeah, right now, the guys, our guys in our office do this more often, since I'm more of a water, wastewater person. They're saying they should be able to at least get, as long as we can get information regarding what route you would want to go over the next few years. It's something that they could get together over by mid next week, but it would require input.
So is this specifically for a designated area? So you would designate, for example, we're gonna do 8th Street. Is that what?
Right, it's basically, they want you to try to do a whole street. They don't want you to piecemeal where, okay, we'll do these 2 blocks and not these 2 blocks. Now, there are certain streets with the water project where maybe you're gonna have 6 blocks done, and on Jackson Street, for example, you're gonna have 4 or 5 blocks done in one area, and you're gonna have the
Some to stop that.
Yeah, and
Or
so
if we wanted to designate the square, we could designate the square.
I think so. Now that I'd have to get clarified with them to see if you could just say, okay, that each side of the square counts as that's just going to be its own individual thing, area, one individual project. And then what we would do is kind of go through is we basically just have to get the length of it, and then the approximate area, because that's going to be what would drive the costs for doing it. And yeah, they can then get numbers put together fairly quickly on whether or not, based on the ratings they give, that's what would dictate, are you looking at a mill and resurface, are you looking at something that would require more going down further into the road to repair it, because you can't, if you mill and resurface it, it's just gonna start falling apart again in the next, I don't know how many, in less time than you would expect. And so it's all, and the rating system is based on, okay, it's a 1 through 10, where 9 and 10, your roads are excellent, nothing needs to be done. Like 7 and 8, good, you might, nothing needs to be done at this point, but start just considering it. And then when you get down to a rating of like a 3 or a 4, you're still in a mill and resurface area, where if you mill and resurface, it should be sufficient for what the road needs. But if you get ratings of 1 or 2 on certain roads, that would be would push you past mill and resurface, and that's where, the second part of the asset management plan is you identify to what extent you go, so.
When you say resurface, you're talking about paving, you're not talking about chip and seal.
No. It's take off like the top 1.5 inches, 2 inches of it, and then put, surface, asphalt back down on top and replace it. Kind of like what we're gonna be doing on the water project once it's all over. Where once that project's done, we're gonna go ahead and mill the entire road and resurface it. So, if they give ratings like a 3 or 4, it's still saying, I think 3 and 4 means mill and resurface is still a viable option for that road. And that's where that PACER rating system comes in, come out, and they want one rating for the entire road section. So even if there's one little section of the road that's good, but then the rest of it's bad, you just need to say the whole road is that, whether it's a 3 or a 4 or 5.
The worst part of the road is not designate the whole road.
Right, and you do, and that's where you also take into account then, is it, if that road, if there's a bad part, but the majority of it's actually pretty good, do you go for the one that has bad for a lot longer area, even though the ratings are the same, it may end up being something where there's more bad road, it's better to go ahead and try to fix that right now than, and so, yeah, we can get ratings together on everything, and then it comes down to putting the priority list together. It can be as basic as far as costs go, as far as like, okay, mill and resurfacing per mile generally costs this, and you can use that to get a general idea, and then you can, once the road's decided, you can get a little bit more specific with it. So it's.
I think you answered my question.
Okay.
And then the one, I guess, additional comment that I would make, in my excitement in finding this last week on day 2, I also was even more excited because the deadline is the 29th to submit this for 2016. So I will note that, and then we actually are, at least from the way it's stated, is that we should hear something by the end of August as to whether or not we've been granted this matching grant. So this is something that could happen, obviously a very quick turnaround and be in close conjunction, from my understanding, with the water project and where that paving will be going in the near future.
Thank you for
Timeframe?
anticipating my first question.
Okay.
Timeframe, have you been working on that?
I believe Ryan Makis said they could, at the very latest, by.
Yeah, we're saying we'll have the asset management plan, and some of it is dependent upon knowing what you want to do.
I mean, would you do it this year?
Like we.
Oh, you mean work-wise?
Yes.
Yes, the work could still be done in 2016, depending on the amount of funding. Paving can typically occurs up to around Thanksgiving, just to give you a time frame. And you'd have to move quickly, if you don't find out until August, you're still gonna have to get a contract with a paving company on, so there's gonna be some quick movement. As soon as they say, yes, we're gonna give you this money, then you're gonna have to designate and get a contract ready to get out to the paving companies.
We're gonna make sure we got the money to match, so.
Exactly.
Right, so I guess I would thought we were kind of initially planning as far as cost was for the first year. I know you're doing a 5-year plan as far as the roads and priority list, but,
The funding would be for 1 year.
yeah, cause I think it would be kind of hard to.
Right.
And plus, we may end up with more LOIT funds, which, would help us next year. So 60,000 is what we were given through that, and I think that would be a good start to try to double that.
I have a question back there.
Was 60 your total, or is that?
You say your name,
5%
please?
your total? What?
Your name, please?
Chris Ogle?
Thank you.
That was the 75% that was designated for roads.
Okay.
60?
59,000, and yeah, so.
Okay.
So possibly $120,000 to fix some roads this year.
Question, 2 questions actually. How much is it costing us for Strand?
Right now, our task order is set up as a hourly not to exceed 3,100.
So that's
Was it 3,000?
$3,000.
That's under the scope of payments and such management plan that you got?
Yes.
Yes.
That was, and if you decide you want to proceed forward with that, we've got a task order ready to go so that we can get started tomorrow.
Can you get 29?
Yeah. And we've got it set up basically as we would finish tables, we'd go ahead and send him to JT so he's not waiting on the entire thing. It'd just be, okay, as each portion of it gets done, here you go, so you're not, so that we don't give you everything on the 27th. We're getting you each piece of it as we go, and then hopefully early next week is when you get the final piece.
I think we need to move on.
Do we have a map of the roads that are gonna be surfaced over?
Yes.
From the water?
In the plans, in the water plans, there's one page that shows all the overlay.
And there's actually a couple of additions.
Couple additions in there. I actually maybe went a little far. I talked to one of our engineers or that probably will do this work, or I talked to him about it today, information. We already have a lot of this information. Now it's just getting it in the right format, doing the assessment, and then JT will have some paperwork to do on his end and stuff as we, like Brian said, we feeding bits and pieces. He's not waiting until the end trying to pull it all together.
So JT, you'd be putting together that format, the application format?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm also glad you're back on vacation, because that would chat as well.
I was gonna say, because most of the information that I see, or I saw, that is engineering provided.
Okay.
So, but I think the determination will be which streets, because what I've read is that you don't wanna put them all potentially in one application. You could submit multiple applications up to a certain amount. And you would not necessarily wanna put them all in one, because then it's all or nothing. They decide not to award, just a award.
Okay. Thank you.
Cindy, you think we would need a motion at this point, since we probably won't meet, well, we won't, well, unless we call a special meeting for the grant deadline on the meeting.
I think it would be great for purposes of minutes in the future to have a motion to, yes, to approve going ahead and taking the necessary steps to get this underway. Yeah.
Well, it has to be a motion because the cost factor is
Right.
$3,100. It has to be.
Well, and
Two separate
I'm
grants.
talking more it's actually 59,000, that's 6895 is the amount below it, too. Because the strand would probably just go through the claim process for the next
Right.
month.
So what do you think, gentlemen? I think we ought to move on this.
Greg, you wanna go ahead and make that motion since you already spoke
Yeah,
on it?
I'll make that motion. Move forward with this.
Second?
Second.
Second. Any more discussion?
Yeah, just one thing. So we've got $60,000 roughly to spend, and they match to ultimately $120,000 if we're approved. Through this thought process of prioritizing the roads, can we get an idea that this street's gonna cost $200,000, so we're not gonna be able to do that, but we can probably get this one done?
That's what the plan will tell us, like
Right.
Jackson Street's so long, it's so wide.
Right.
We can take that area, do the math and say, okay, if the rating says it needs to be milled and resurfaced, this is the estimated cost.
Right.
So that'll-
If the rating system says you need to dig this road completely out, and that's why you come up, get people on site, get the road, look at each street, get measurements for each street. They drive, they walk down the street, oh, we got 12 patches here, or this part's really broken up, or no, this one's not in bad shape. It might rate a 9 or 10, you don't do anything about that. Then, which is what Trina's saying, she said you take that, and instead of one big application, you might turn in 3 or 4, saying one of them is for Washington Street, one of them's for Aiken Street. If you turn them all in together, and they say no, you don't get anything. But if you turn in 3 or 4 smaller ones,
We might get one of them.
you might get 1 or 2.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
And I'll review that again, but that was my
Yeah.
understanding.
I think that's what I understood
From what I
too.
read.
Question for you is approximately how How much does it cost to do a square foot of street?
How much does it cost to do
To
a square foot?
I mean, so, or do they do it like that? I mean,
No,
is that-
what you do is milling is by the square yard and paving is by the ton.
Okay.
So, I mean, we can do the math,
No.
and I can, you know,
Yeah, it's about $8,000 a mile to chip and seal, and about $50,000 a mile to overlay.
60. They said this morning in the commissioners meeting,
Okay.
60. So-
and a lot of that depends on the volume of work.
So 50,000 will get us, so.
60,000 will get you more.
We don't ship and seal in town. No, right.
And we would never recommend chip and
We don't
seal.
ship and seal in town, so
But we
60
do.
grand. But 60 grand will get us a mile and,
Right.
yeah.
And like I said, it depends on the volume, you know, if you put a project out there and it's a half mile versus 3 miles, you're gonna get a better cost, you know, the more you do at one
Sure,
time.
sure. One thing that would be real, Omar mentioned there about the square. Ultimately, I'd still love to see something with the square. You talk about an eye catcher, driving through town with fresh pavement out there.
Well, one thing to remember, you know, the square is streets. It's Jackson Street, it's Harrison Street, it's, you know, Washington Street. I'm not sure about how much of it's Main Street, the parking area,
Well,
because of the
but-
highway, but, you know, you
cars are-
designate those as, you know, it's Harrison Street from Grand Street to Mill Street, or whatever, and, you know, but you can't, like I said, you can't do blocks, but you could designate the north half of Harrison Street, and that would take that side of the square into account.
I'm on the square every day and I see, just the other morning, I watched a lady drive clockwise on that outer part. And, I mean, she was just clueless. And I'm not saying that because it was a woman, the person was just clueless to where she was at or what she was doing. And, I think we're in dire need of that being marked. With something on there that says, hey, you may be going the wrong way here. We have signs, don't we? Oh, we got signs.
There's signs.
You gotta read them. And if it's,
Bigger signs.
yeah, you gotta, they
On
pull
the
up the
road.
stop sign, they see it's a stop sign, even though it's, you can't see the red, it's, you're looking at a sign you got.
I did want to, I guess, remind you, we are looking at a downtown revitalization plan as
Exactly.
well. So some of that may be included in that. And it would be, I don't know, maybe putting the cart before the horse, or we don't want to spend those funds and then have something come up and say, oh yeah, we're going to rework the whole square with, you know, maybe some jut outs and things like that to slow traffic and things of that nature. I just wanna make sure we don't double spend when we're doing things. That's just
Well, we got a while to look at that stuff, we just need to work, get this thing going, so we don't lose this funds. So we've had a motion, a second, any more discussion? Yes, David?
We've also got local roads and street money and empty gates, so this particular grant would let you do the actual square, but maybe that could be paid out of local roads and streets. Also, does that only pay for paving, or could, say you had a number, one graded as an 8, all it needed was crack sealing, can that pay for crack sealing, or?
It didn't seem to have like that specific of a breakdown, it was for roads or bridges. So it didn't necessarily say if you had to, if there was any variation there.
I think that's some information we can talk to the guys who've done, and get some more information.
Based on the system that's used for rating, it's specifically for asphalt roads.
Yeah, basically asphalt. There would be no infrastructure, so, you know, if you wanna redo a road, but then you need to do the water line or storm sewers, it's not going to pay for infrastructure. There's no water lines, it's gonna be strictly the asphalt that this will pay for. So that's something to keep in mind as you're evaluating, you know, because again, if it's a street that, hey, we're thinking about, we might wanna do some storm sewer work on that, even though it might rate low, you might not wanna put it in the program because you're gonna rebuild it in some other form, so. But Dave has a lot of that information, he and I have already talked about you know, where we could possibly do some extra paving when the 60,000 came along. This is just an extension of hopefully being able to stretch out that first chunk of money.
Is that it? We got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries 4-0. Okay, drinking water project.
Hold on, I believe there was some discussion about how much money to commit, that you needed a motion. I don't mean to be out of line here, I'm sorry, but just remember, I thought it was Diane saying something about how much money they were gonna commit, you were going to commit this year. Because you need to know that before you turn in the grant.
Right,
Like
yeah.
July 29th.
Thank you, Steve, yes. Because otherwise we would have to, call another,
I kinda thought that was.
or was
part
that
of the
what
motion.
yours was? Or was it?
That's the way I.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was to commit the 60,000 as well as.
Along with the application.
Yeah, because actually Stringer was.
Sure.
Because that's what my second one was.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
just wanted to make sure. Okay, now to the water. Okay, I'm Steve Robertson with Strand. We do have same contractor, we have a different crew, so if you see different trucks or something running around town. All the water main, including the additional blocks on Harrison Street and Elm Street, have been completed. They have passed the pressure test, and they are in the process of what's called the BACT or the bacteria test. As soon as those areas pass, they will start changing services over, and get that going. All the equipment for the interconnect out at Miller's Mary Manor is here. They started this morning and it rained, so they'll be out there tomorrow, start setting the bolts in, start the piping. Eastern Bartholomew has done their connection, so hopefully here in a couple more weeks, hope we'll have a second connection to be able to supply the town with water. After that's complete, they'll go to County Road 600 North and rework the original connection and get it up to date and stuff. As far as that goes,
You might explain to them the connection out at Miller's, because of the flood where the pipes
Right.
broke to our main feed. This will be a secondary feed in case something like that would happen in the future.
the Town of Hope has a water line that runs all the way to Miller's Mary Manor there at the corner of Schaefer Lake. It stops about 300 feet away from Eastern Bartholomew's water main. So what we've done is Eastern has put in a tap, so now there's a 6-inch line that runs up and connects, or will be connecting into the Town of Hope's main. There is a meter there. The idea is that it won't get used very often. There's a pressure valve. Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong on this. If the pressure in town drops so low because there's an issue on 600 North or somewhere that way, this valve automatically kicks on, supplies water to the town. So like in 08, when the town went without water, this connection will hopefully eliminate that, and there will be water. It also helps that if there is an issue between Liberty Place and Miller's, which then Dave could shut some valves off, Miller's could still be supplied with water, the rest of the town could be supplied, and he can help isolate some areas if he needs to repair some things. So that was part of the project. There was Homeland Security, correct, suggested this a couple of years ago. Indiana Utility suggested that, so this is a way to just, it's a redundancy thing. If one goes down, you have the other one to be able to supply water. And the way it's set up, like I said, there's an automatic valve. Dave doesn't necessarily have to go out and turn valves off and on, they'll come on. There's also a bypass system out there that if they don't come on automatically, Dave can go out and turn some valves and get water on. So residents, school and everything, it would feed the town just like the one does now, just feeding it from another direction. It's still Eastern Bartholomew, so there's, don't have to have new agreements or worry about buying water off somebody else. Same kind of setup there. So that work's gonna get started. It has to be operational so they can shut down 600 North, upgrade that system so that it ties together in there. So that's what we got going on. I do want to compliment the crew. Just to give you a quick story, there's an elderly lady that lives on Main Street that uses a walker, and these guys, they went over and above to make sure that she could get in and out of her house. It was raining, they went and got her car for her, pulled it up on the sidewalk, helped her get in. When she came back with her groceries, they helped carry her groceries in. They're really trying to be good stewards and help out the people in town. The other thing is, before at the last meeting, we talked about the work they needed to do out at the school. That work has been completed, and that payment was released. We talked with Diane about that, and all that area has been taken care of. Just bringing up what you guys directed us to do last week. Any questions on? I think Ryan does have the pay application for this month.
Yep, so I believe you guys received last week the pay application from Lycans, and we just be looking to see about getting approval for payment of that at this point in time. If you have any questions on it, let me know. Okay, it is, the amount due, this application is $374,923.03. And this is probably the start of pay applications increasing in amounts because of the payments starting now, since they got started with that in June.
I'll make a motion that we approve the payment application.
Second. Got a motion, a second, any discussion?
Alderman West, second, correct?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries forward. That it?
Yep.
Okay, sewer lining project.
Okay. This is the last one. Ryan Angus with Strand. You guys, back in May, asked us to go ahead and get started on design for sewer lining project on the north side of town. We completed everything, and Dave's taken a look at what's being proposed to be done. We've divided it into a base bid plus an alternative bid in the event that the base bid comes in well. That way, since you approved a certain amount, that you can go up. If the alternative plus the base comes in below that amount, it'll allow you to get more done for a better price, basically, for the economy of scale. So what we're basically giving you now is, the design's complete, and it's more of a question of when you would want to advertise, if you want to proceed with advertising at this point in time. If you'd be prepared to, however, if we get it to the paper in the next day or two, it would probably be Friday or next Monday at the earliest that they could advertise. So that would be the time frame for the earliest point, and we can push it back further than that if you would like. So
How much did we approve?
I don't know the exact amount, because total of it was like 170, somewhere right around 170. I think it was approximately 140, maybe it was 143 that we would have broken out for construction. And so it may have been 175.
I just wanted to make sure we had bid it.
It's still on the threshold that it's the projected cost on the projected cost is under 150. So for construction, so which means you don't have to bid it if you don't want to. However, the differences between quoting and bidding means everyone has the opportunity to get it. Quoting means you send it out to 2 or 3 people that you choose, and realistically, the prime contractors for this type of work there's probably only 4 or 5 really in Indiana. So I don't know if you want to just say, okay, these 3 I'm choosing to send it to. I mean, you're allowed to bid it at you're allowed to bid no matter what, any price you want. But as far as quoting, if it's under 150, you're allowed to quote it. So it'd be up to you whether or not you want to put it out for a competitive bid, or you just want to release it to several contractors and that be it. I guess we were kind of looking at as either way is fine, but as far as possibly making sure, in case that one or two you didn't send it to is the one that decides to really go after it aggressively, it was, well, you're close. Our estimate is below 150. So, I mean, as long as, I guess that would be more, sometimes people go with what the engineer's estimate is, sometimes people go with what the cost is that it comes in at. Based on, it's kind of up to your interpretation.
What do you recommend, Steve?
I think in this case, this large of a project, we're that close to the threshold, it would be better to bid it. Sometimes you get some companies that may be a little farther away, but if they're looking for work, you might get a better price.
Everybody honest.
You know, and sometimes if you put things out there for quote and they know, hey, I'm only going up against Bill and Joe over here, they all go out and have coffee, you know, I would recommend, personally, I'd recommend bidding it.
And either way, it's the same for us. As far as,
Yeah, same.
we go through the same steps either way for quoting or bidding.
Gotta do a motion on that.
Do we need a motion?
Well, let's go ahead and do that.
We should.
I make a motion, we submit this project for bid.
Okay, got a motion, got a second. Got a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried 4-0, get it out.
So go for as soon as we can, get it out there. Okay. That's it for that one.
Okay. Violation enforcement, Cindy Bolt.
Thank you. For the record, I'm Cindy Boll, and you should have each have received a copy of the statutes that deal with the establishment of an ordinance violations bureau, and also a purely draft ordinance for your initial review. And basically, what an ordinance violation bureau does, if it's established, is it would permit the town of Hope to directly, if someone were fined for an ordinance violation, and we'll get to that in a second, but the town could directly receive those fines through the clerk's office. That's a plus, of course, because that would be money that we're not seeing now. I do think, you know, there are some other considerations that need to be taken into consideration in looking at this, and those are potential downsides. The statutes do require a certain process be followed, so that if somebody doesn't agree with it, they can say, hey, you have to take me to court, okay? And prove it in front of the judge. There's also, and I don't know how this would pan out or what the numbers would be for the town of Hope, but there's gonna be a manpower cost too, involved with tracking these and receipting things in and keeping track of the complaints or the ordinance violations that go out. And then, of course, if somebody does contest this and you have to go to court, you're gonna have to pay an attorney too, which no one ever likes to do, and I totally get that. So, that's kind of a background, overlay of what I think y'all need to consider when you're considering this idea. Now, when you look at the draft ordinance that you have, a couple of points I want to make about that. And number one is, you guys can determine what ordinance violations you want to be included. The ones I have listed there are not required. Not every town has those, but it's kind of a compilation of what I had seen in other small cities and towns. You can also make a decision as to the fines or penalties to be assessed and whether or not they should be assessed in an increasing amount if, let's say there's a running dog violation, you know, and it happens again in 30 days and again in the next 30 days. So those are all things that the council needs to be thinking about. And as I was working on this, I thought, you know, not that JT doesn't have enough to do, but this might be a good chance for him in a small study group of, you know, 1 or 2 of the council members to really sit down and kind of crunch through some numbers, because I think I would recommend that you all be pretty confident that it's fiscally the right thing to do. And honestly, I don't know the answer to that, but I think that you all might, sitting down and really going through this and how many violations you might be expecting and such.
So what you're stating is that if somebody does receive a violation and they contest it, we have to have an attorney present?
Well, I think that you would have to go to court, yeah.
Okay,
And-
so if they go to court and they have and who provides the judge? Do we provide the judge?
No, it would be through the court system in Columbus.
Okay. So we would have to have an attorney present?
I think you would, yes.
Because of being a municipality, I think we have to be represented on it.
And so, I mean, of course I'll double check on that, but, yeah, that's my understanding.
One initial thought I had in looking at this would be, one, that we have our town marshal, generate a report to see what our numbers look like as far as the number of violations that are going out, to just have an idea on that number. And 2, my thought was to reach out to some communities that are similar to our size and just kind of get some thoughts from them as to how they approach the same concern. You know, when violations are not being paid, you know, what they're, and then from that kind of base a study for what could potentially be best for us, for our community.
And I think those are great suggestions, because what I've read in other small cities and towns is that the marshal or the police chief was very involved in that. So I think that's a good idea.
But normally the cost of those violations are considerably less than what it is if they gave them, for example, don't we have that authority here in the community that if somebody speeds in the community, they can give them a ticket and it's like a $25 fine versus if it goes to court, it's $100 and some odd dollars plus expenses. I don't know.
Matt, I don't know if
What
you
was
can
the
address
question?
that.
I'm sorry.
If somebody gets a ticket here in town, do you write the municipal tickets, or do you?
We have a choice, we can write either one. Normally, if we have the option, we will write the local ordinance ticket for a $25 fine, yes.
Okay, so the $25 fine versus
If
The other
it
one-
was a state ticket, I mean, you're looking upwards of $200 compared.
and
Plus points on your license.
Plus points on your license and insurance, going up, the insurance
yeah.
fines out of that.
Is that the direction that would go, Cindy, if we had something like that set up, or would that be more going and fighting for our 25?
Well, I'm not sure I'm following that, but
As like-
if, under, my understanding is if you do set up an ordinance violation bureau, that it would still be the same thing, meaning it would not go toward your points, you know, or insurance, and it wouldn't be on your record, basically. So there is incentive for people to do that. Now, the problem comes if they don't pay it, or if they say, I wasn't speeding and I'm filing a denial of this complaint or whatever, and then that's when you have to boot it up to the next level to go to court.
Well, also, if they don't pay it here, and that's why they started that, to save them some money, if they paid it here, they don't get points on their license. If they don't pay it, then he turns it over to the state. And when the state makes them pay, instead of the $25, we get $3. total, period. So, and then they, get their lose points on their license and everything like that. So they would be better off paying it here. I mean, common sense would tell you that. We have tickets here that still haven't been paid. So, eventually they're gonna have to send it to the state, and then they'll have to pay for them.
But they
And,
don't-
and we're also potentially talking about more than speeding tickets here.
Yes.
Okay?
Right. Yeah, we're talking
Yeah.
about, building and zoning fines and animal control fines. We got almost $200 in animal control fines hanging over more than that haven't been paid. There's nothing we can do about it right now.
If they're not paid within a certain time frame, can you submit the same fine to the state? Or are
Well,
you-
we
or-
talked about that at one time, and then we found out that we weren't allowed to do that.
So you make your choice.
Yeah.
Well, they make their choice on speeding tickets, but if that person don't wanna pay for building and zoning.
Or animal control,
animal
there's
control,
no
nothing we
submitting
can do
those to
about it.
state, there's no state fine for some of
That's
our
correct.
ordinances.
Can you hold their dog for ransom?
I can, but I have to get the dog, and I legally, I just can't say, hey, you owe money and take your dog. That's an issue. I mean, I could actually take that, and may say they pay a lot of money to get that dog back, but it's still town.
But your fine, most of the fines in regards to dogs is, they're running loose and you catch them. You can fine them, right?
Failure to provide rabies vaccinations, stuff like that, yeah.
But the ones where you actually have the dog in the kennel up there, you don't release that till it's paid.
Right, it all depends. If it's the first time, then I let them with the warning. After that, then I write them the ticket.
Right.
So, I mean, if they're standing here and can't pay, the dog didn't ask to do this, the owner. So I write it, they got 30 days. So if they're like, a couple of them aren't, then let it sit there, I got my dog, so what?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Steve Robertson. Matt, so if somebody gets a building and zoning violation and they don't pay it, what's the recourse? There is no recourse. So you go without collecting, and nothing happens to that individual. Same with the dog or the speeding ticket, you do have that recourse, but the town gets only $3, correct?
Right, well, no, we have no recourse, if we write a local ordinance and they don't wanna pay it, we have no recourse.
So when you write a speeding ticket, you have to decide then and there.
If we wanna write a state ticket or a local ordinance ticket. And most of the time, when we write a local ordinance, we explain to the people when we stop them, we're cutting you a break, it's a $25 fine compared to what it would be if it was a state ticket.
What percentage of people come in and pay?
I would say 1 in 5 do not pay their tickets.
Do you ever send them reminders?
We started sending out letters, about 2013, we started sending out letters saying you haven't paid this, and basically saying it could be sent to the state if they didn't pay it, but it didn't affect them. I don't think anybody ever came and paid them after they got a letter.
On a building and zoning, if they get a ticket, can that be applied to their taxes?
A lien on their property?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Well, this looks to me like what we asked Cindy to kind of prepare for us. And I've looked over it a couple of times. My recommendation, Clyde, would be that we treat this as a first reading, and if we see anything we think we have questions about, we get with her between now and the next meeting. Because we need to have 2 readings anyway.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. Yeah.
I would also like to find out what other small communities are charging for local ordinance tickets.
Right.
I think $25, our $25 fine is way too low.
We'll have a month to figure that out.
And I've got some,
Yeah, you don't get nothing now, we'll make it $100.
Clyde, I've got some samples and I'm happy to forward those, to JT and Diane to disseminate to you guys, so.
Question.
Yeah, my name's Nellie Meek, and didn't we have something, some kind of ordinance or something that, when the guys did have to go out and mow like a property, that went on their property taxes?
Yeah, that's.
Okay, so that's
We
something
can do
different
that.
then.
Yeah.
We could do that.
And we do that, so.
Okay, we still do that.
Yeah.
Okay, any more discussion? John, do you wanna make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we treat this as the first reading of the ordinance, which could possibly establish a town of Hope ordinance violation bureau.
Have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries 4-0. Okay, 154 Elm Street, Cindy Bull.
Yeah, Cindy Bull again. I've had just a brief chance to talk with JT about the Elm Street situation, and I would propose that he and I get together and get the process solidified and presented at next month's meeting, because I think it would be really good for him to be involved in that process as well. I've got the statutes and such all pulled up, and you know, of course we can get it done, we just gotta dot our i's and cross our t's on this one, so.
Have the appraisals been done, or that's our next?
We got some very informal ones that people were willing to do basically for nothing. And part of what I think JT and I are gonna need to look at is what, do we think those are still good good numbers to use, so.
Is that it?
That is it, thank you. And then I think I've got one more thing.
Shelter house, Cindy Bull.
The fun keeps on coming.
Yes.
Okay. You should have also received a draft ordinance. You remember last month's meeting, I had just basically a list of activities for you to consider that should not be allowed in the park or in the square unless prior approval was granted by you all. And what I basically done is just format that into a proposed ordinance for your consideration. It is set up to go under under a part of the town code that we have that's entitled Town Park Regulations. And the list is the same as you saw last week. So tonight, if you wish to, you can consider this a first reading. And if you have any things that you wanna, strike out of that list or add to the list, we can certainly do that.
What do you think, gentlemen?
I think it's appropriate that we treat this as a first reading. Personally, I'm comfortable with the list that she's provided, but I have a feeling perhaps Elma may have something to think about as far as adding to that, just from his background.
I think I asked you to check on it, gun.
Oh, you did, Clyde, and I don't have an answer on that tonight, but I'll do that first thing in the morning.
When this world's going, I think that might be something to look at.
And you're would be thinking of just firearms in general, okay? It might not hurt to put that in there anyway. Yeah.
So I would make a motion that we treat this as a first reading also of ordinance amending chapter 5 of the town code.
Are we gonna submit firearms to this?
That was my thinking.
And we could put a general, something general in there, just, we will assess everyone, or everything as needed, based on request.
I think that's implicit in the unless prior approval is obtained from the town council. I think that's the point at which, you would need to say, okay, we think that's gonna be okay, like for Civil War days, when they have fires and camping out there, you know, do we think that, or the fireworks, for instance, but we need insurance,
yeah.
in a reasonable amount.
And I think they're all carrying wooden guns.
I'm sorry?
I think they're wooden guns, aren't they?
Huh.
Real.
They don't real guns.
Okay.
So that prior approval in my mind is when you kind of get information about the proposed activity
Right.
and figure out what needs to be done.
And I think in most cases, you know, we get that. I mean, if it's Heritage and Cove,
Yep.
if it's the Yellow Trail, they kind of know.
Yes.
But I think the concern is someone else coming in and asking to use it, so.
I can add firearms in there for next
I'll
month.
make the motion, we treat it as first reading, and then she go ahead and add firearms to the list.
Second.
Second.
Any more discussion? Yes.
What are being
Your
banned?
name, please?
John Clark with White River Broadcasting.
Ma'am, I can't.
Can we, what is being banned? What would be, what is there a list or?
We'll give you a list.
Okay,
Yes, there is.
okay.
Said firearms will be added, it's not on this printed list right here, but it's gonna be added.
Okay.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Or opposed, motion carries 4-0. Okay, that takes care of old business. New business, abandoned vehicles. I have a Lou Kajowski.
That's correct, Lou Kajowski, and I've got some information that I wanted to pass out, if you would just pass it down the road. I'm a 23-year resident of Hope. My father was a police officer. I therefore wanted to be one too. Didn't happen. And I've got great respect for law enforcement. And that respect was shaken recently because of the second notice that I received that a vehicle in my possession, my property, that was licensed, registered with the Department of Motor Vehicles and insured, was classified as abandoned with a sticker. It took about 19 days because I was working on the vehicle. I like working on my cars. And on the 19th day, they said the police would come and get it in 20 days. I had 20 days to either remove it or hide it in the backyard. So I didn't finish working on it. And what I did was I pushed the vehicle around back, and I called Marshall Towns and let him know that I've moved the vehicle around the backyard, and I told him that I'd been working on it. And he reminded me that I still had 20 days, that he would be there to get it if I didn't move it. So the next day, day 20, I called the police department again, and I got a different officer. And I let him know my vehicle was parked in the backyard. You couldn't see the vehicle from a public street. By the way, number 7 under abandoned vehicle is where they use that particular Indiana code as their standard of proof for an abandoned vehicle. And as you notice, number 7 cites, what's the first thing? That the model year is 3 years old or more. How many of you own a vehicle that is less than 3 years old here? Just one? So 99% of you own a vehicle that is 3 years old or older. Huh. The next thing is that it would be considered mechanically inoperable, and I don't know anybody that can walk up to a car and go, mechanically inoperable, you don't work. And last but not least, is left on private property. Of course it is. It's my home. It's my driveway. That's where I park my car, on my property. Here's my concern. When you get pulled over by a police officer, even if it's Marshall County, he asks for your driver's license, your registration, and proof of insurance, right? And if you were speeding, you get a ticket. You're fined anywhere from $25 up to $200. when they applied this standard of abandoned vehicle, subsection number 7, they're taking your private property from you. And a car can mean the difference between getting to work, getting to the grocery store, getting anywhere, to do anything. To take that vehicle from you, they could conceivably be taking thousands of dollars out of your driveway without your permission, just because you didn't take the time to hide it from them on day 20. My proposal would be to the town council is ask or propose that the police department use a higher standard of proof of abandonment by including what they do all day long: ask for driver's license, registration, proof of insurance. If those 3 things are affirmative, that means the vehicle has not been abandoned at all. However, if the vehicle isn't licensed properly, it isn't registered with the BMV or IDAX, and it's not insured, that would constitute legitimate reasons to move forward with subsection 7 and further inquire as to whether or not that vehicle is abandoned, and use subsection 7 as the recourse for taking that vehicle in 20 days. My vehicle was almost taken. When I pulled it around back, I called the next day, and another officer, and I'm not sure who it was, but he says, "Why in the world did you move your car in the backyard? Isn't it licensed?" And I said, "Yeah." "Is it insured?" I said, "Yes, it is." "Well, then you didn't need to move it around back, sir." I said, "Oh, really? Okay." So there's some miscommunication going on with the police department. And I wanted to make the town of Hope and the town council aware that I believe a higher standard of proof of abandonment should be applied when taking private property from the legitimate owner of that property. And a fine example of the taking of that private property would be my neighbor 2 doors down, Mr. Kevin Minnitt.
I have one question.
Yes.
Is this not your vehicle here?
Yes, it is.
On Jack?
Yes, it is.
And it was on Jack for over 20 days?
Yes, because I was working on it, sir.
You're leaving it out in the driveway on Jack?
Yes.
Jack.
2 jack stands and a hydraulic jack, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I did finish that vehicle, and it runs just fine. I yield the floor to Kevin Miniman, whose vehicle was taken.
My name's Kevin Miniman. I'll try to keep it simple. I also called in, talked to 2 different officers who said it was fine as long as it was properly plated, registered, and insured. This has happened before. I got the same answer this time. And I was just trying to understand how it can be taken. I would believe the discerning factor is that it is properly plated, insured, and licensed and whatnot. I figured that would be the discerning factor of abandonment or not. So I'm just trying to figure out what possibly can be done.
Let me ask you a question. Is this your vehicle you're talking about? This vehicle has the year 14 plates on it.
That is correct, which I fixed. I have the proper
You didn't do it
registration
within-
paper right here. I
You
stuck
didn't
it
do it
on.
within 20 days. It was sitting there with plates on it that's 2 years old. That is part of the ordinance.
I
So it
understand.
was not plated legally.
It wasn't at the time they gave me the first notice and tagged it. This is a paper they left in the door after they took it, and they have 2016 year plate on here. When I figured out I had a problem, I fixed it. And I have the registration here also for the proper year. So, as I was told by the officer I called into, if it's properly plated, registered, and insured, it's fine. So that's what I went by.
Okay, thank you. that it?
That's it.
Move on, or you want to close?
Obviously, there's more than one criteria for an abandoned vehicle. Where an officer can remove after a 20-day time frame. And I don't have it in front of me, but I think one of them is it not being moved in 24 hours.
Sitting continuously in the same spot. Hang on, it's 48 hours.
48 hours?
Yes.
But I mean, there's several areas there that would consider a vehicle being abandoned.
Right. Those don't apply to private property. Those are on public property. I read through the Indiana code several times. 7 is applicable only to private homeowners who leave their vehicles on their own lots.
You're reading that out of our ordinance there?
No, I'm reading it out of
Okay,
the Indiana.
But we have our own ordinance
That takes from the Indiana code.
Yes.
It's what now? What you say?
Unless you altered it in some way, they basically are a mirror of each other.
Actually,
Greg, do you want to see?
actually, we have to go of what the state says as a code on a minimum.
To
We
Greg.
cannot go any lower than, or we can go lower than that, but we can't make it any better. So we have to, as a town, at least go by the state code. We can make our own codes stricter, which I believe our own codes are stricter than the state. Have you looked at our code?
I read through it before I got here, yes.
Okay. So it's not a mirror image. A lot of it is, but not all of it.
The abandoned vehicle definition is definitely a mirror image. It has to be. You don't want to alter it.
No, it doesn't have to be. We can make it stricter. We can't make it less strict. We don't have to insert wording. As long as we have covered the state part of it, we can make it stricter. We just can't make it more lenient.
And by stricter, do you mean a higher burden of proof of abandonment or a lesser burden of proof?
Well, whatever our code says, I don't even remember that part of it. But yes, either way, we could do it. Any more questions?
For the record, my car did run well. I needed to work on it. But it was moved. I put it back in the driveway rather than park it in the yard. And I put it also back so my wife could park behind. I only have so much driveway.
Yes, I know.
Melanie, Matt, did I understand you to say that if a car isn't moved in 48 hours from one spot that it's sitting in?
That he is correct, that is on public highway.
Okay, that's what I
Our
thought.
ordinance says
Okay.
20 days. If it sits
Okay.
continually for more than 20 days. it is
If I don't go
considered-
to town for it, because a lot of times I don't,
Right,
for a
right.
week or so, they can't come and pull my car out.
Right.
You got the driveway, okay.
What if you have a snowbird? Just out of curiosity.
Generally, we only tag once a year, and usually it's sometime early spring to summer. So, most of the time, spring, summer, people are out and about, the car sitting for more than 20 days. Has weeds growing up around it, flat tires, stuff like that, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Newman, yours did have flat tires and weeds
No.
growing up around it?
The tires were not flat.
But
I also took pictures.
I'm just going by the pictures. Looking at those pictures, it looks like you have.
I also took pictures of right after it was taken, and it was weed eaten all the way around it, except for a short section like this. Yes. And the marks on the ground do not show any flat tires. They were all aired up. They may have been low, but they were there.
Well, I think why Mr. Kajowski's asked us to consider a higher standard. I'm willing to review what we've got.
I would appreciate that. That's all I ask.
I can see a little bit of review on that myself. JT, you and Matt get together. I'll get with you sometime, we can look at it, maybe present some possible changes for council.
supposed to refer them to me. I'm supposed to be the only person talking to people about their tag vehicles, and I don't remember talking to you, Mr.
I
Nunn.
think you were out on that board, so
Okay.
I was told. But I was told by two different officers, and I only got the stipulation, and I didn't read it in the code either, about weeds or flat tires. I only got that stipulation from Jason Tucker, the Monday before they towed it.
And that's not
And I,
the ordinance.
and I told him I'd be more than happy to take care of it as soon as I have time. I've been working 60, 70 hours a week and going to my grandma's in Brookville to work on her house. So I would be happy and respectfully request if something can be done about my vehicle, either it be returned or paid for, because it was my property.
We'll look into it.
Thank you.
Okay, change in the building and zoning administrator. I had told the council, probably a month ago, that Tim Show had come to me and said that he would like to give up the position because his business is going so well that he doesn't have enough time to do the job properly, and for us to start looking for somebody else. About 10 days ago, I got a phone number of a gentleman that I've known for many years who was possibly interested in the position, and he has tremendous qualifications. So first off, I called Tim Show to make sure that is what he wanted to do, and which again, he said yes. The only thing he requested, and I told him the gentleman's name, was that we wait till September 1st to appoint him, because he was going on vacation, and when he got back, he would like to get with this person and go over everything with him, bring him up to snuff with it, stuff like that. So anyway, I'm bringing to the council for action on September 1st, replacing Tim Show with Greg Potts.
But Tim's going on vacation,
Right.
so we're gonna be without one for the month of August.
I don't remember how long, no, I don't remember how long he's going. He wanted, when he got back, he
He
was
wanted
getting
time to meet
time to
with Greg
meet with Greg and go
before
over
Greg
stuff.
actually took over.
Take him out, show him places and stuff like that too. So no, it won't be as soon as Tim comes back, it will be that until September 1st.
Well, I would think Greg would do an excellent job. And in fact, I considered him as a possible candidate myself, so I would be fine with that.
Is that a motion?
I thought you were making the motion.
Oh, that's right.
I'll
That's
second, I'll second that.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay, edit requests. We had a request last Wednesday from HSJ Online Media Division of 30 Deposit. They had 4 different figures down here for us to look at. One was operation expenses, $2,000. The other one was One-Up website, $1,188. Promotion efforts, which was Heritage Days, brochures, cards, programs, magnets, on and on, $812. And freelance writers, town and school, $2,000. The edit committee unanimously voted to approve operation expenses, One-Up website, and the promotion efforts, which totaled $4,000. So that is a motion, and that's the second. Any discussion?
Okay, so, just, I wanna make sure I'm clear on this, Clyde. So the first three listed, that's what the motion is, it doesn't cover that fourth one?
It did not cover the fourth.
Okay.
We did not. We did
And that was unanimous?
Correct. So we got a motion, a second, any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay, any questions about submitted reports or any comments, anything like that? Public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Melanie. Why do we not advertise, and I think Greg Potts will be an excellent person to take over that position. I think he should be doing it right now, actually. But, why do we not advertise when we have an opening like that? I wondered that back when you put Tim on.
We actually did.
We did?
Did we not, Diane, to the
I
Hope Star Journal?
Never saw you.
Do we just stay online?
I think we posted a story about it.
Yeah, there was a story, but I don't believe you ever had anything on there where you were advertising to hire.
Well, we wanted somebody local to start with. So to do an advertisement out of Columbus or something, number one, it's quite costly. Where, of course, the Hope Star Journal was a cheaper alternative for us.
Right.
And we wanted to keep it local. So that's the only reason we didn't do that in the Republic.
Thank you.
Anything else? This meeting's adjourned.
Motion made.